All right, guys. Hey, thanks for joining us. Got my guy Dante here. Dante, thanks for coming in, dude, doing this interview with me while we're doing our lock-in right now. How long you been with FFL total now?
Yeah, I 4th of July. So
Got it.
and it is December, about
And
6
how old
months.
are you?
I'm 21.
21. Okay, got it. And so you were saying you started doing sales like right out of high school?
So the household that I grew up in, my mom, she was a massage therapist. So she ran her own business. It was all 1099, like her clients were her commission.
Mm-hmm.
My dad was in sales. He was in medical sales for like chemotherapy. So his
What company did he work at?
AstraZeneca was one of the
Okay,
biggest
cool.
ones.
Got it.
And that's where he still is. But so I saw basically the difference between the money my mom makes and the money that my dad makes. He was in sales. So I knew right away I wanted to go in sales. I just didn't know what.
Mm-hmm.
And I never knew like exactly how sales works and how I always thought it's like my dad, he went to school for 5 years for his sales job.
Got it.
I was like, okay, I got to go to college, get my business degree. So I did go to school. I did 1 year of school.
Where at?
North Dakota State
Oh,
University.
okay, cool.
I spent about $25,000
Yeah.
and didn't learn a damn thing. Like
Why North Dakota State?
I was in Minnesota. That's just where
Is
that's
that
where
a
all
lot
the
of people
boys
go
were
there?
going. That's where all the
Got
boys
it.
were going.
Got it.
But I did that 1 year of school, spent $25K, did more partying and stuff the young kids do, instead of that you would expect out of a young kid. And then eventually it took me being really drunk one night in the dorm rooms. I was looking in the mirror, like I'm in the shower, like puking on myself, like it's terrible. And I looked in the mirror and I was like, it was like a Tuesday night. Like I'm like, what the hell am I doing? And it was towards the end of the year. I got good grades. I was always good at school. I just hated it.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel like it was doing anything for me. I was losing money.
Yeah.
So I left, and my grandparents, my dad's parents, one's college dean, one's a college professor.
Got it.
So dropping out of school was not like something that was easy to just bring up and start talking about.
Were you paying for your own school, or did you have scholarships? Your parents paying for it?
Actually, my grandparents paid for it.
Okay,
Thankfully,
got it.
they covered my 1 year of that 25,000. But so my grandfather, college dean, grandmother, college professor.
Where at North Dakota State or where at?
Ohio. Everyone in Ohio.
Got it.
So I did that 1 year of school, finished it.
Mm-hmm.
I knew I was dropping out. I knew I wasn't going back to school, but I told my parents I didn't want to be in the cold anymore. I didn't want to be in North Dakota.
Got it.
So I was like, I'm going to go to Arizona State, ASU. And I went there. I moved right after the school year, at the beginning of the summer. Typically, people go to college towards the end of summer when it's about to start. I went at the beginning of the summer on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
But that's where all my friends, I left them. I moved to Arizona. I subleased an apartment because I had no money.
Yeah.
I had like $2,000 to my name. I bought an apartment for $1,500 a month, and the down payment was $1,500. So I had $500 to my name.
You got to figure this out.
I had 3 months. I told my parents I was going to start school at Arizona in 3 months.
Did you have any intention of going to school or no?
Oh no.
Yeah.
No. I had no intention of going back. So I went there and I started knocking doors. I started selling solar, made really good money, and I showed my parents. I was like,
yeah,
I'm not going back. Like, you guys, as much as I love you and as much as I know you're gonna be mad, I don't need your support anymore.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go do my own thing. So I did. I left everyone. I lived there alone. Like, I had no friends. So there's nothing to do besides go out and knock doors. I woke up, went to the gym, knocked doors, came home, went to sleep. Did it again every single day, Monday through Sunday, for almost 2 years. And then eventually, like I told you, solar was going great until it wasn't. Everybody came from all these window, roofing, alarm. Everybody switched. They wanted to sell solar. So it went from 50 companies selling solar in the state of Arizona to 450 in a span of 9 months.
And everyone was doing it in Arizona, right?
Arizona, California,
Texas,
but even the problem was, like, California was the first state to get washed. So everybody from California, as soon as that's saturated, Arizona.
Yeah.
Now it's to the point where if you go look at a solar team, those guys might be home and see their family 1 or 2 days a month because they do these things called blitzes.
Yeah.
Where we're in Utah this month for 15 days. We'll go home for 2 days, and then we're in Arizona in a neighborhood out there. And I just got sick of it. I didn't want to. I was never home. I'm paying for these apartments that I don't even live at because I'm always in these Airbnbs.
Yeah. I'm paying for those too.
And the and the money, it went from being up here to overnight being down here.
Yeah.
So like I said, I was knocking doors, and I knocked on a different IMO, someone who worked there, an RGA at a different IMO. Went there for 2 months. I sold my whole solar team off to a different guy. Left because as much as I would have loved to bring them with me, I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
I can't teach something that I don't even know how to do myself.
Right.
So I dropped it all. I kept my close ones close, and now they're with me here today. The guys that were with me.
How big of a difference do you think it made when you went to Arizona? Because so when I graduated college, my wife and I were both going to go to medical school. We both got into medical school, and we deferred our enrollment for 2 years because she wanted to do this program called Teach for America. We were dating at the time, but I wanted to go with her. So we moved to South Carolina, and all my friends I went to college. I went to University of Colorado. It's like a huge party school, right?
Yeah.
And I did good in school, same as you. I did good in school. I made good grades. I went to all my classes. I drank 5 days a week, but like I went to all my classes and got pretty much all A's.
Yeah.
But all the guys that I realized, like when I looked back, all the guys that I hung out with all the time they moved from Boulder to Denver. That's like everyone goes from Boulder to Denver because it's a big city. And like, dude, even now I'm 29. I started insurance when I was 22. 7 years, like, dude, some of those guys are still doing the same stuff now. They're still drinking every night. They still go to happy hour. They still have some shit job where they make 60 grand a year.
Yeah.
And like nothing against them, but I think for me, moving out of state, being totally away from everyone I knew and having to start it's like you're reborn, have a new identity.
Yeah.
You know, and it was just me and my girl there, and I had to make money. She made no money doing what she was doing. Like I had no other choice. I had no support. Like no one was bailing me out. And that's kind of what you had too. Like how important that was for your like personal development. I feel like that turned me from a boy into a man when I did that.
No, 100%. That was for sure obviously I'm young, I'm 21, so there hasn't been too much in my life, but that was the turning point of my life. Moving to Arizona, I knew nobody.
Yeah.
Not a soul. I had no friends on Snapchat there.
Nothing.
So all I knew is that I didn't want to go back to school.
Yeah.
And everybody's seen the videos. The best thing to do is get away from the people who are dragging you down. And as much as I do love those guys, like they were dragging me down. Like if I hang around those guys, I'm a kid. I'm gonna go do what the kids are doing.
Yeah.
So that's what I did.
If
but
there's 4 crackheads, you'd be the 5th. If there's 4 millionaires, you'd be the 5th.
Exactly.
Right?
If 5 of the guys were going to the bar, I'm the 6th.
You're
Let's
6th.
go.
Yeah, let's go. Yeah.
But no, I moved out to Arizona, and obviously it's college town. There's the bars, but I didn't know anybody. That's the biggest thing. And I'm not the type of person to like go out to the bar alone and like if I'm not with a group of people, I'm not going. Like
I felt like when I moved away from everyone, it let me like really figure out who I was and what was important to me. It let me like figure out like my values were super important, like doing very well, progressing in something, and then like being very focused on my family, which like it was just my girlfriend there, but like I understood what my values were, and it wasn't going out, it wasn't partying, it wasn't all the things I thought it was when I was around the wrong crowd, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't know if you ever heard this story, but I think Alex Hormozy tells it, but they said like in the Vietnam War, there was a bunch of soldiers who went to Vietnam and like tried heroin and stuff. And like they did a bunch of heroin when they were there because they were around like heroin all the time and like going out like red light district, like doing all this nasty stuff when they were in Vietnam. And like they kept doing it while they were there. And then they studied the same people who said they had done heroin in Vietnam when they came back to the United States when they were with their families. And it was like 1 or 2% of the people that did it in Vietnam did it when they were at home.
Yeah.
It's like, cause your environment's different, right? Like they're like, everyone's doing it there. I guess I'll do it. And so you can never even think about doing heroin. I would never even consider that. But like, if you're around everyone who's doing it, you might. And then they're back home at their house, their white picket fence, their family. Like they wouldn't even think about it. It's not something that would even cross their mind, you know?
Yeah.
And I think in sales, it's the same thing. Or being an entrepreneur, if you have the right people in your corner that can teach you how to get to the next level, it makes a big difference. But if you're around a bunch of losers, then you're going to be kind of screwed, right?
Yeah, 100%. And I'm glad you said that because that's essentially what I did. Is I took one group, the group that I was back with college. You know, we're going to the bars, doing all those things. Went to Arizona, started knocking doors, got around a bunch of people in sales, and I basically just took that group, got rid of it, and substituted it with a new group of completely different mindset people.
Yeah.
So I surrounded myself with the people that were making the money, that are living the life that I wanted to live, which is something that if I would have stayed back home, I don't think I could have ever done, just because there isn't those types of people. I was stuck in that group, and I got out of it. So I'm glad you brought that up. But that was...
Dude, when I started working here, like, there was people like Sean and other people who like I grew up like where I grew up, a small town in Colorado. Like the only real thing to do there.
In Evergreen.
Oh, they are. I grew up in Grand Junction, so it's like on the western part of Colorado, and there's nothing to do there, dude. Like there's nothing to do besides outside and like drinking. So like, I grew up drinking being like a heavy part of like my life, kind of. You know, it was like what you did when social, like Thanksgiving dinner, get smashed. Like that's what I did. Then I got around a whole different subset of people who like didn't drink, who were like very spiritually focused, very work focused, and like fitness, health, all this, and financial freedom was more important. Dude, I haven't drank in 3.5 years, and I didn't realize I had a problem until I started here. I'm like, oh shit, I'm an alcoholic. I think I should probably stop drinking. I haven't drank in 3 years, dude. But I never would have made that transition or realized that until I got around people who showed me that there was like a different path. So
Yeah,
you brought that
mean,
up, and I'm like, I think that's an important thing to realize. You have to be around the right people.
yeah, 100%. It's you don't even know that you're caught in this loop of, partying, going to the bar, hanging around with the wrong, not like-minded people
Yeah.
until you are around the right people, and then you absolutely know you're like, okay, I'm in the right spot, and you made a right move for yourself. But that was definitely one of the best things that I ever did for myself was just getting away from my hometown and my hometown friends. As much as I do love them and I care for all those guys, they just weren't on the same path as me. And they didn't have the same goals and aspirations that I did.
Yeah.
So I went somewhere else where I could make that stuff possible.
And at some point, you had to be selfish. Like, not that you you don't still talk to people, but you have to put whatever your goals are ahead of making other people, like the fear of disappointing other people. You know, like, oh, like I remember having that feeling. Like, you don't want to say no to people but it's like, dude, they're gonna go out and have fun anyway. Like, what's important to you? And I remember having to, as a young person, you have to think through stuff. Like, what are my values? Like, what do I want to accomplish in life? Like, do I want this to be my goal, my legacy? And it wasn't for me, and it's not for you. So it's cool that you figured that out. So so you did solar sales, you did insurance sales, and then you found FFL. Like, what was the transit? And you didn't have success in your other insurance job. Like, what do you think allowed you to have success once you transitioned over to working with us?
It's as simple as the leads. That's all it is. But it really, I was at a different IMO for 2 months. I made $2,000. And one night, like I was just saying before we started the podcast, I was about to go back to solar and take that 10K sign-on bonus. It's safe. It was the safe move. So I was doing what was safe.
How does that work? You have to stay there for a certain amount of time if you take that, or what's the sign-on
contract?
How
it
long
would have been a 6 month.
Okay, got it.
6 months, but I also would have had to bring my team back with me. So I would have had to rally up all the boys again.
Yep.
So yeah, I was like gonna take the safe move after I was at that IMO, and then they coded me some business. So I got paid, and I was okay. I'll get one more week. I'm gonna figure this out. And I just hopped on Instagram, started following a bunch of people, and I came in contact with someone from FFL. Next day, I was not in Arizona. I was in Philadelphia in the office with Ronnie. Ronnie actually flew me out to Philly, and I wrote $14,000 that week, and it's no different. They're selling life insurance.
What'd you deposit from that when you wrote 14?
I deposited about $9,000.
Got it.
Yep. But it's
made your own sign-on bonus.
Yeah, 100%.
And you weren't captive for 6 months either.
Nope. I was not signed away to anything. I made my own money. And that's when I was like, okay, this is the right spot. And then I didn't even waste any time. Solar guys, let's go.
Yeah.
And I started bringing everybody in. But that was the biggest thing. It comes down to the leads. At the end of the day, this IMO is selling life insurance. They're selling life insurance, but they're not selling the same leads.
Yeah.
And that's what it comes down to, is having the right leads and having the right market.
Yeah. What do you do because I think a lot of people always want to know, like, hey, what do you say on the phone? Like, dude, what you say on the phone is not super important, right? It's how you say it. You have a good script, you follow it. But to your point, like, if you have a lot of people to talk to and a lot of quality people to talk to, then some people are going to buy no matter what.
Yeah.
Like, you could bumble your way through it and not really know what you're doing. And they're gonna be like, you're calling me about the thing I filled out for the insurance. I want to buy that. Like, you're going to get some of those people. So instead of talking about like the sales part, because I think it's less important, what does it look like for you from, how much are you investing in leads? And then what is your schedule like to set yourself up? Like, what's the best month you've had of income so far?
Best month was last month. I deposited $48,000 into my bank account.
It's $48,000. I was talking to someone about this earlier. I'm like, dude, we have a bunch of 20-something-year-olds who make 30, 40 grand a month. They think that's normal. And that's our culture, it is normal here. Not normal in the real world, but it's normal here, right?
No, I'll tell you, 4 months ago when I came here, I had, it was like $4,500 to my name.
Yeah.
And now, after like Corbridge has a bonus coming out next week, in 2 weeks I'll have $97,000 just sitting in my bank account at 21 years old.
In 6 months.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the cool part is, like, that's a lot faster than it took me to get that money built up, right? Because we figured out like leads and systems, and we were doing all in-home before. Now we're all doing virtual. Like you said, your buddy made a sale in the airport. Like, pick up phone. Oh, you're calling me for that? Yeah, let me write you an application in the airport on my phone. Like, well, you can't do that anywhere else. You can print money doing this, right?
100%. I was just saying, like, it's at least here, once you get to a certain point, most of my guys, like, we do have a schedule dialed in. Like, you're in the office.
Yeah. What does your schedule look like for people? Because I think people will watch this and they'll go, oh, I could do insurance and I'll make a lot of money no matter what. And I always like to tell people, I'm like, this is an easy job, or it's a simple job, but it's not easy. You have to work at it like it's a blue collar job.
Yeah. 100%.
You know, and if you work 20, 30, 40 hours even doing this, when you're new, you're gonna make no money, you're gonna lose money.
Yeah.
So like, what does your schedule look like for you and your new guys who are crushing 40, 50, 60 grand a month?
Yeah. I mean, it's as simple as if you work part time, it's going to pay you like a part time job. You work full time, odds are it's going to pay you like a full time job, if not 10x that. But our schedule basically it's going to change because we just bought the office, which is really cool. I've been running a 20-man team on Zoom.
Yeah.
And eventually I was just like, can't do it all on Zoom. So we bought an office, and I know most of my guys, we'll all hit the gym in the morning together. We all kind of live local. So we'll go hit the gym, and then after that, everybody right now, we head home. Everyone showers, gets their breakfast in. 8:30, we're on Zoom.
Yep.
By 9 o'clock, everybody's ripping dials. And then it's like, typically our baseline is like 6 o'clock. That's the earliest you're getting off. I don't care if you're at 0, 10,000, 6 o'clock. Like,
Yeah.
hop off. Most guys, they'll dial until 6, 7, 8 just because they know if they keep going, they're going to get another sale.
Yeah.
But it
And
got...
that's where the big ones live, right? I remember that, dude, all the time. Like, I ran most of my business because I would spend a lot of time during the week recruiting and building and training agents, like Monday through Friday. I sold most of my insurance, but on Friday from like 5 p.m. till 9 p.m. at night, and then Saturday and Sunday. I used to only run appointments on the weekends so I could spend the rest of the week building my business. Everyone's like, you're crazy. I'm like, dude, ain't no one else selling insurance over the weekend. Who are they going to buy from? Me. And I catch all the people who are home and busy and make money because I'm the one selling on the weekends. Everyone else is working during the week. Like, you might get the broke ones, but if you want to work those extra hours, that's where the bigger sales lie too, and the better sales lie.
100%.
And if you separate yourself like that, you get so much further ahead. How many dials a day are you guys making? Because I want to hammer that home, dude. I think people just think like insurance easy. This guy's making 40 grand a month. He's 21 years old. Like, you work 80 hours a week probably, right?
If not more, yeah.
Yeah.
As far as dials, one thing that you may or may not believe, nobody on my team counts their dials.
Yeah. I don't believe that.
It's a presentation thing for us. And when I first started in the Philly office, my first week, every morning I woke up, and I still do it to this day sometimes, but I'll get a blank piece of paper. All right, 1 through 8. If I don't get 8 presentations, I don't care what I've sold or how much AP I've done. If I don't hit 8 presentations, I'm not hopping off the phones.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, I'll sit with each agent as they're new, and I'll be like, here's your leads. Hit 5 presentations today. Once you hit 5 and it's past 6 o'clock, if you got shit to do, go do your shit.
Yeah.
But if you hit 5 presentations every day this week, I promise you don't walk home with less than $5,000.
Yeah, you'll close 1 out of 5 even if you're terrible, right?
Yeah, I call us lay down hunters basically because our leads, they're so hot, they're so warm that it's like, yes, I think you can be better at like your banking objections, your tonality, and how you're saying it. But once you have all of that down, it's just calling the right person at the right time. Yeah.
I think your point is good too. Like, you don't count dials, and the dials are like a good indicator of like how many the typical winners make, like it's 500, 700, whatever. But to your point, like, my goal was never to make a certain amount of dials when I was an agent. My goal was every week I was writing 15,000. And when I hit 15,000, if I had extra appointments left over, I would give them away. But every week I was gonna hit 15,000, and it didn't matter if it took 1 day, 3 days, or 7 days. I was gonna hit that number because that was my non-negotiable goal, right? Yeah. What are some of the things that you look for when you're recruiting people that are a good fit for this business?
Yeah, I mean, my biggest thing, I love targeting people who already have sales experience. Half my team out there are car salesmen.
Got it.
Just because they know how to sell, they know how the work it already takes.
Yeah.
They just haven't been in the right vehicle, right? Like Adam out there, he was a car salesman. He was making $100,000 a year selling cars, but that was it. Like, he knew there was no going up. Nobody else is hitting above 100,000. It's like 100,000. You really, like, that's a lot of money too. Like, a lot of people don't make $100,000.
At least it used to be.
Yeah, nowadays it's really not.
Yeah.
But he's a 19-year-old kid. As a 19-year-old kid, $100,000 is a lot of money. Yeah. And that's really what I target, is people who already have the experience, or athletes. I love athletes just because they have the competitive mindset. I was a wrestler for 15 years. So I have my team is car salesmen and wrestlers. Like, that's basically it.
Why do car salesmen do well at insurance, do you think? What's tough about car sales that insurance kind of solves?
I really have no. I almost don't have an answer because I don't know what it takes to sell cars. I have no idea.
I feel like it's that, like,
I know the names of cars, but you ask me any parts, I'm out. Like,
I'm not good at. I was just thinking about it. I'm like, dude, think about car sales. They're at a lot. You have to wait for people to come in.
It's a giant competition too. I know Adam would tell me a lot of them. It's like one client walks in, you got 5 reps running to him.
But think about that, dude. Think about if we had to set up a brick and mortar office. We're in our office right now. Sit here, and you had to wait for people to come in
and line up at your desk. Yeah,
dude. Like, but ours is like, no, if you could sell cars by calling all the leads and selling them a car over the phone, you would, right? But those guys have to sit there and wait. With ours, you can control your income by how much leads you get.
Yeah.
And I remember, I'd love to hear about what your strategy is for leads and how much you're spending on them. But I remember, dude, I used to call all the top producers of the company, and I used to call all my top producers, and everyone was different. Everyone had different phone script, sell different lead types. Everything was different, except for that they all spent a lot of money on leads, right?
Yeah.
And I realized my best year in the field, I wrote like just right over $700,000. I got out of the field in October that year. And I looked back from that year versus my first year, I wrote 403,000, then 600, then 700 something. And I look back at it, and dude, everything was basically the same. My schedule was the same. I got a little better at sales, except for I went from spending like $1,000 a week on leads to like 2,500.
Yeah.
And by the end, I was just spending $2,500 a week on leads. I was, like you said, I was taking the laydowns, and then I was giving the rest of my leads to my guys and letting them work through the rest of those.
Yeah.
But what is your, what do you spend a week on leads, and how do you view reinvesting into your business like that? Because it's not normal for 21-year-olds to be dropping money in a business like that.
Yeah. Well, 100%. You can't run a business. Every business has expenses.
Yep.
It's impossible to run a profitable business without investing back into it. So as far as leads, when I first started, it was simple, $1,200, and my non-negotiables like your 15K, mine was 12K. If I could hit 12K non-negotiable, that's what I was doing. But as soon as I started buying a team, I realized not everybody's gonna have money to come in and just start dropping $1,000 for kids and not adults, for anybody. $1,000 a week, $2,000 a week is a lot of money. That's scary. So I started. Yeah. I kind of took my whole team under my own wing. I spend now $2,000 a week on leads. I make sure I hit my 12,000, and then I funnel all those leads to my reps, let them eat, and then there's always a milestone, which each individual rep that I set when they first start, it's like, first of all, they have to, I don't do part-time. I don't hire anybody part-time. If you're coming in part-time or you have a different job, there's got to either be a plan to go full-time within the next 30 days or just don't come in.
Yeah. You could be part-time, but you have to be working full-time hours, right? Like if you have 9 to 5, okay, you're going to work from 5 to 9 every night, and you're going to work all day Saturday, all day Sunday, and transition to, I used to do people all the time. Like you can work 2 jobs, but they're both going to be full-time. You're going to put in 40 hours a week on this one, and if you make enough money to get rid of the other one, then you can transition over.
Yeah.
Right?
So that's basically as I keep it simple. Each individual rep, I talk to them individually. If they want to come in part-time, it's just not an option. Yeah. It's cool. You can come in part-time now, but in the next 30 days, you either have to plan to go full-time or just plan to just don't even start, dude.
Right.
But I set up just kind of like individual little milestones. Like how much money are you making right now at your job? Yeah. How much money would you need to see in 1 month to leave that job? Yeah. So first of all, I make sure they hit that because I want them full-time. Right. And then second is after they've hit that, I'm going to come up with how much money do you need in your bank account to be comfortable spending $1,200 a week on leads? Got it. As soon as they hit that, if it takes 2-3 months, I'll funnel them leads, whatever, because it's the big picture. The long run is what I look at.
Now, what if they're not working? Like, what if they're half-assing it and you guys are dialing at 9 o'clock, they show up at 11. What do you do then? Do you still give them leads?
So we have this thing called the Shark Tank. Yeah. It's basically there's tens of thousands of leads in there, but it's specifically for people like that. Because obviously you're gonna get I don't do it like I said, but people hire their part-timers. They hire the people. Not everybody's gonna work like I do, or not everybody's gonna work like Adam or Ten or any of those guys. But if it's 6 to 8 weeks and they're maybe in the Zoom 2-3 days a week, they're hopping off early. Shark Tank, they can get free leads.
Have old leads that have been ran through.
Yeah, they're getting ran through leads, which. Don't get me wrong. I wrote $40,000 out of old leads when I first started. So there's still good leads, but I mean, don't expect your comp to get boosted up. Like we're feeding you leads. We can't bump your comp and stuff like that. They just you just find like a middle ground. It's like, here, I'm going to give you free leads, but you're just going to be.
Yeah, I'm not investing. You're not working hard, so I'm not going to invest money in.
Yeah, I don't want to say I'm going to make them stagnant because they're still going to make money. But the growing process is going to be a lot slower for them. But that's something that it's
about being fair, not equal, right? Like people are like, I want to be treated fairly. Like fair is that the hardest working people get compensated the right way, right? Yep. If you're putting 80 hours a week in and I have to decide how to deploy, say I'm going to spend $3,000 a week on leads for my new guys. Dude, I'm not spreading it out to all of them. I'm spreading it out to the 2 that I'm going to get the best ROI on, right? Yep. So if you want to be treated fairly, then work your ass off. But it's not equal. It's fair, but not equal. Fair is based on your performance and how much effort you put in.
Yeah, it's really
about, and the other thing I'll let you go, but the other thing I always do with people is like, I don't care about your result right away. I care about the effort you put in, the time you spend, and how coachable you are.
100%. I'm going to take the guy that's working
your result will come.
7 days a week, 10 hours a day over the guy who, and writing zero business over a guy who's working 2 hours a day, 4 days a week, writing 10,000.
That's how I knew Mahmoud would be good. Like the guy Mahmoud would be really good is like in the beginning, he wasn't selling a lot, but dude, he was working his butt off. He was on dialing all day, making all kinds of calls, running all kinds of appointments, fumbling through, not selling all of them, but like investing in leads heavily, believed in himself, and was working really hard. I'm like, I don't care if he's good at sales, he'll figure it out. Sales is not hard. As long as you have the right attitude, you'll get good at it eventually, right?
That's all it is the belief and the work ethic, and that's in sales in general, but especially in the life insurance agency. If you have the belief that you can do it and you can make a lot of money, and second of all, the work ethic, which is probably the most important thing. Yeah, it's almost like impossible for you to show up at least here at FFL and not make money if you're putting in the work. Yeah, it's really it's a plug and play system. You plug them into the leads. Here's your phone. Here's your leads. If they say yes, great, you got a sale. If they say no, guess what you do? Call the next one. You got a whole line of people lined up for your product. Like, just keep calling them. Yeah. And eventually, they fall into place.
What advice would you give to other people who are, 20 years old and deciding if they want to go to college, do sales? Like, how should they decide what path they want to take in life?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people were like me. I didn't even want to go to college, but my grandparents, my parents. You had to. Yeah, I think a lot of people need to just man up and speak up. Like, yes, love your parents, but you don't have to do everything by the book that your parents want you to do. Eventually, like, take the risk. Yeah. That's my biggest advice. Take the risk.
Well, dude, I think my parents and your parents, like, our parents were raised in a generation where, like, if you went to college, you're successful. Then that meant that you were going to make a really good living and have a great career.
Yeah, it's not like that anymore.
It's not like that anymore, dude. There's a lot of ways that you can do. Dude, I have a friend, one of my most successful friends owns a plumbing company. And they just opened an electrician branch of that plumbing company. Dude, that dude makes millions and millions and millions of dollars a year.
He's an entrepreneur. I mean,
he's an entrepreneur, dude. But he didn't even graduate high school. Yeah. You know what I mean? And then I have friends I have a friend who has a PhD in math who makes $75,000 a year. He did school for 12 years, Yeah. So I think it just depends on what you want to. Now, if you love math and you want to go to school for 12 years, go to school for 12 years, right? But not me. Yeah. But I think it's because our parents. If you're watching this, it's not because your parents are trying to slow you down. It's because they care about you. Yeah. So if you're gonna bet on yourself, have a good plan, right?
100%.
Like, don't have a shitty plan and expect your parents to be on board with it, but have a well thought out. Like, this is what I'm gonna do. This is how long I'm gonna try it for. This is what I'm gonna do for work. This is why I believe it's gonna work. And find someone like you that you can plug into and learn how to do sales from, right?
Yeah, it's exactly like you said. It's like you can have the thoughts, the idea, the aspirations, but if you don't have a plan and some sort of action steps along that plan, you're not gonna do anything.
Yeah, your parents gonna think you're dumb if you do that.
Yeah, it was the same thing with me. I sat there and when I was selling solar for that first year, the first 6 months, I was selling about $30,000-$40,000 of solar panels a month. Yeah. And then eventually, like, people start talking about starting your own team. I could have started a team 6 months ago, but I sat there and just didn't take any action steps, and I just focused on myself and selling a bunch of solar myself. And then all it took was me to take a couple action steps. I sent 4 DMs, got 4 recruits, and that was my team, like, the next day. So it really is, like, people have the plan, but not everybody takes the action. Yeah. That's the biggest thing to me, is you could have the greatest plan in the world, but if you take no action or you don't take any steps towards that plan, what's the point of the plan?
And that's the other thing, is, like, if you're young, you're watching this, trying to figure out what you want to do, it's like you could always go back to school. Like, if you want to try to be an entrepreneur and try to do sales, you can always have the fallback be school. Yeah. But while you're young and don't have a ton of bills and
you'll never be 21 years old and free again.
Dude, when I was 22 years old, I bet on myself and I built a really big business, and I'm glad I did, because now I'm married, have kids, a bunch of bills, but like, it was so financially worth it because now I can live my life the way I want to live it. Yeah. And I'm glad I bet on myself in that way, because I see people still just struggling paycheck to paycheck, and it's tough to live that way. And I want to see as many people win. Like, the only thing I did right was bet on myself. I'm not more skilled than anyone. I just believed in myself. And I think that that's what you're doing right now, is you believe in yourself and the vision that you have, right?
Yeah, no, 100%. I think we have a very similar story where there's, like, a bunch of people and bunch of ideas pulling us in all these directions, but we just went straight down the middle and bet on ourselves instead of going to all these different routes. Yep. And that's all it takes. Take the risk. Yeah. Take the damn risk. It's as simple as that.
Well, hey, dude, I appreciate you doing this with me, and I'm looking forward to watch you keep killing it, bro.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you having me on.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.